It's that time again where Watches and Wonders is just round the corner, so naturally we're going to talk about the rumours around Rolex and Tudor. The fun thing talking about Rolex and Tudor is that no one really knows what's going on. We can have an idea around Tudor because there is a pattern, but with Rolex there's anything goes. But here are 4 watches that I'd like Rolex to launch this year and things that I think they could launch this year, and 4 Tudors that I'm more confident that they're going to launch. The first watch I'm going to throw into the mix is this. It's a 41mm Sea Dweller based on the anniversary Sea Dweller, which is 43mm, but for me, just a touch too large. But I'm also going to throw this in the mix with a 41mm Submariner in the same vein. A matte dial with red text at the bottom, and I'd like to see a slightly washed out bezel insert. Essentially, I'd like to see a modern day version of a red Submariner or a red Sea Dweller. I feel like Rolex's offering is missing something like this because a 43mm Sea Dweller, the anniversary one, is just a touch too large for me. And I'd love to see, I'm a sucker for matte dials. I feel like glossy dials makes the watch too flashy. It makes a watch too... It just takes away from the tallness of the watch. And so I'd love to see Rolex bring back something like this. Now, I am going to confuse this suggestion or offering or idea by saying there's another watch connected to it. And that's taking the Sea Dweller, the 43mm anniversary Sea Dweller, and mixing it with the titanium Yacht Master that they launched. Both of these watches have so much going for them. I'd like to see these two come together and have a Submariner, inspired by the titanium Yacht Master and the anniversary Sea Dweller. This would be just amazing. Essentially, I'd like to see Rolex do a Tudor Pelagos. That's kind of where I'm going. Moving away from the dive watches, the GMT Master II is going to have some sort of upgrade. What Rolex typically do, just like there's patterns with Tudor, there's patterns with Rolex, Rolex often launch a watch first in a precious metal, and that's what they did last year with this two-tone GMT Master II with a grey and black bezel insert. Now the GMT Master II range in steel has always had a black bezel insert. Well, it hasn't always. It's had one missing for quite a while. And so it's about time they bring one back, and I feel like this is the one that they're going to bring back. They've done it first in precious metal, so I think they're going to roll it out in steel. The question is, which bracelet would you want it on? The Jubilee or the Oyster? And what 24-hour hand do you want to see? Green or red? I would personally lean towards an Oyster bracelet with a red GMT 24-hour hand. That'd be cool. Final Rolex idea, and this has been bouncing around the internet for years and years. That's a white dial Explorer. I'm a sucker for, I don't know where mine is. I'm a sucker for an Explorer. This is my favorite watch in my collection. And I'd love to see them bring out a white dial Explorer. Last year when they launched, well, they launched a 36mm a few years ago, but last year they launched a 40mm Explorer. So they're obviously looking at range extensions within the sports line of watches. This would be a perfect addition. Another range extension, a 36mm and 40mm. White dial Explorer. And this isn't the first time that they've done a white dial. It's in their catalogue, it's part of their history. So they could easily bring that back. And again, this would look absolutely awesome. So for the Tudor rumours, and this is a bit more obvious because there is a legitimate pattern with Tudor, but the first watch is new, Pelagos. The full fat Pelagos, the 42mm Pelagos. The Pelagos has gone past its anniversary stage, and so I kind of feel like maybe they weren't ready to launch that watch. When I visited the Tudor factory, they talked about how they want every single one of their watches to be META certified, but they also mentioned that this is a long process. META certifying a movement takes a long time. There's lots of tests. They have automated it with robots, but ultimately it's just a time thing. There's not a pun there. There is a pun, but it's not a clever one. So I'm wondering if Tudor just missed the anniversary for the Pelagos and that actually this year they are now ready to launch a new updated Pelagos. Because Tudor have this META certified movement, if the Pelagos is going to be the flagship watch, the flagship tool watch for Tudor, it has to have a META movement. And there'd be no point them just putting a META movement in a watch that is over 10 years old. You may as well update the watch as well. Next up is a bit of an easy one for Tudor to do. I'm a massive fan of the Black Bay Pro. I think it's one of their coolest watches that they have to offer. And last year, they put that opaline, that white dial in the GMT, the Black Bay GMT. It'd be very easy for them to just drop that white dial into the Black Bay Pro. And that would be one... Hang on. The Explorer 2 is my other favorite watch in my collection. And this would be one killer offering. This looks sick. The third watch that I think Tudor is going to launch is something that people are saying that Rolex is going to launch. And that is a Coke GMT. I think Tudor is going to roll out and extend their Black Bay GMT line. They did it with the Pepsi, and I can absolutely imagine them doing this with a Coke bezel. Include that 5-link bracelet, the Jubilee style bracelet, and the META movement, and this could be an absolute hit for Tudor. I feel like this is something that Tudor is more likely to do than Rolex. I feel like Rolex this year, as I mentioned, is going to do the black and grey bezel. I think Tudor is going to do the black and red. Before I tell you about the watch that I'm pretty sure Tudor are going to launch because of patterns in the past, I've launched some new watch straps. This is my new strap. This is called the 7030. You can get it over at barkandjack.com. It's called 7030 because it's 70% man-made fibers and 30% cotton. The man-made fibers give it the strength and the cotton gives it this really soft feel and matte look. You can get it over at barkandjack.com. Anyway, back to Tudor. Now here's a pattern and the watch that I'm more confident that Tudor will launch based on patterns that they've done in the past. Previously, Tudor's launched a watch within the Only Watch auction, and they've gone on to launch that watch that following year. Last year, they submitted this, a full gold Prince chronograph. This is a watch of old. It was essentially Tudor's version of the Daytona, although it's got a date and the sub-registers are slightly different. We've got a 12, 6, and 9 sub-register as opposed to, anyway. But this is the Tudor version of the Daytona. They already have the Heritage chronograph, but that's kind of Heritage is in the name. That's kind of the vintage-inspired chronograph. This could be the chronograph equivalent of the Pelagos, but they have to make it thin. It needs to be a slim watch. Because immediately, if it's slim, it's more wearable than 90% of chronographs. Anyway, there's my thoughts, there's my ideas on what I'd love Tudor and Rolex to do. What are your thoughts on these suggestions, and what would you like to see Rolex or Tudor do? If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you like this stylus video, then hit the subscribe button down there and that little bell icon to get notifications when I drop a new video. And give me a follow on Instagram at barkandjack. Oh, and check out the watch straps, barkandjack.com. I'll see you guys so soon. Take care.